Bom dia a todos. Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma ação do webinar. Vamos ter aqui mais uma vez o Bart, que já esteve connosco nos webinars do Adobe Sign. Neste webinar em específico vai falar sobre o Adobe Creative Cloud, sobre as suas inovações mais recentes e que demonstrar como estes softwares da Adobe funcionam. Qualquer dúvida que tenham podem ir colocando no chat ou podem aguardar pelo fim da ação para colocar as questões. O webinar será gravado e também iremos partilhar convosco no fim da sessão. Bart, thank you very much once again for your presence. I will stop sharing my slide and you can start.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ricardo. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Bart Van de Wiele. I'm a principal solution consultant for Adobe. And for the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes, we're going to take a look at what was released recently in Adobe Creative Cloud. So I'm just going to start out here by sharing my screen for a second here. Just bear with me. I'll just choose OK. And I'm just going to go through a couple of slides first before we dive into the hands-on presentation. So Ricardo, can you just quickly confirm that you can see my slide in full screen, please?
Yep.
Excellent.
I
Thank you so
confirm.
much. So let's take a look at what happened in Adobe Creative Cloud these last couple of months. So as you know, what we do every single year in the month of October is that we launch a brand new version of Adobe Creative Cloud. Now this happens during the Adobe Max conference. So this is basically, it's like the Adobe holiday of the year where you basically get brand new updates for every single app that we have. And so there are a lot of different solutions that come with Adobe Creative Cloud. Now, that's great. But the thing is that throughout the year, we actually have also other types of updates as well. So this means that on a regular basis, you get these smaller but powerful updates basically being fed to Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere Pro, etc. So the objective here of this session is just to kind of guide you through a couple of these individual changes that we've got in the last couple of months here. Now, of course, chances are you're sitting at home watching this presentation as I am sitting at home right now. And so I've got a couple of interesting numbers for you guys just to kind of kick things off a little bit here. So there has been a few studies that were conducted in 2020 that basically talks about how COVID lockdowns, working from home, how that has basically changed the way we work and to the way we act as creative individuals using Adobe Creative Cloud. And so as you can see here by the numbers on the screen, this has really made an impact on how people are forced to work. Now, the chances are that you're probably now attending a lot more Zoom meetings or Microsoft Team meetings, for example, or that you're collaborating using Teams. And so you need different tools to work together with people that are no longer sitting next to you at work. They're sitting at their home somewhere else. So you have to collaborate from a distance. And so this is something that we're trying to tackle as best as we can as well, because it's great collaborating with using Microsoft Teams for business purposes. But of course, the creative industry and creative designers, they have very particular needs and they just don't use Microsoft Teams for everything. So this means that they need different ways of further collaborating. So there are two main objectives here when it comes to the brand new updates to Adobe Creative Cloud. The first one is how to accelerate your collaboration with your coworkers. And the second is how you can transform your productivity. Basically, which means is how can you be more productive? How can you accomplish the same thing you did before, but in a shorter amount of time or in a more flexible manner? Or how can you achieve more in the same amount of time? That is productivity, and productivity equals profit, and productivity equals ROI. Now, let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about how to accelerate collaboration first. Now, first of all, there's something that we recently released a couple of months ago, which is called a creative system. Now, a creative system is a concept where you would have hosted assets and hosted branded assets and files and logos and brushes and colors and everything that makes up your brand. Okay. And you host them on an online service at adobe.com. And then you can share those assets with other individuals who do not use Adobe Creative Cloud or who do not have a background in creative design. And so what you can do is you can basically use that creative system using Creative Cloud libraries and you can now use those within other solutions. So for example, you can now just use your branded assets within Microsoft integrations, using Google integrations, for example. If you have product shoots, if you've got logos, colors, textiles, and you want your coworker from marketing to have access to those, you share that with them. They can use PowerPoint, they can use Google Slides, and they can use those curated assets. They don't need to have a Creative Cloud subscription. So basically expanding the world of graphic design and assets that everybody seems to be using in their company across your organization into the daily the day-to-day tasks of other individuals that do not use creative software. That is what we're currently doing. And so, with that, what we can also now offer is the ability to use cloud documents. Now, cloud documents is not something that's available for every single application that we have. This is something that is primarily there for Adobe Xd, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Fresco. Now, especially the Illustrator and Photoshop integration is something that came out in these last 6 months. And so I'm going to quickly give you a short demo about how that works and what you can do with that. Now, talking about productivity. So again, we've had a massive update to what you can do and how you create certain things thanks to artificial intelligence. So Adobe is investing heavily in AI-driven functionality, basically enabling you to do things a lot faster, okay? Or even doing things that were before technically very challenging. Even if you talk about very basic things, things you would basically hear or do every single day, like can you select something in the picture in Photoshop? Okay, even accelerating things like that is really going to reduce the amount of time that you spend on some of these individual tasks. Again, I'm going to give you an example after these slides, and I don't have that many slides, don't worry. We're also trying to automate how you things do. So there are several automation services that are available now today in beta. So you can sign up for those. And what these enable you to do is to accelerate and automate the processing of graphic design files according to various algorithms that might come from Illustrator, InDesign, or Photoshop, and you see them here in the screenshot. So for example, changing the background in images, taking one image and then saying that you've got, let's say, 15 different textures and you want a different texture per image. So automating that kind of stuff is something that you can do by automating Photoshop and basically using Photoshop on a server. Check out adobe.io if you want to learn more about these services. But this is something that, again, Adobe is investing heavily in these last couple of months. Of course, you cannot talk about productivity without talking about mobility. So this means that now you have Illustrator available on the iPad as well, which means you can start your illustration purposes and projects straight from your iPad and then pick up where you left off on your desktop machine. And now we also have Adobe Fresco, the painting and drawing app available on iPhone devices as well. And so I'm just going to finish off my slides here by just showing you one more introduction here, which is a brand new presentation plugin by Adobe Xd. So Adobe Xd, the prototyping and designing tool, now has a presentation plugin, which means that you don't necessarily have to stick to PowerPoint if you do want to do a good presentation. So this enables you to use the power of Adobe Xd with all its interactions, Photoshop and Illustrator compatibility, and all sorts of prototyping functionalities to basically build a proper presentation slides that you can share online, you can get comments on, you can present it from anywhere you want. It's very, very powerful. Again, something that only came out, I'm guessing, about 2 weeks ago. So it's all still very, very fresh. Now, I want to keep my presentation relatively short because I want to show you guys a lot more and show you how these things work in practice here. So let's quickly go ahead and dive into the very first project. So I'm here inside of Adobe Photoshop, where I do have to work on a couple of things here. Now, I downloaded a couple of images from Adobe stock. So these are just regularly downloaded images. As you can see, it's just a regular background picture that I have here. And so I've got this woman here that is currently doing a workout. Now, I'm working on a very particular brand in this scenario. So for example, if I take a look at the brands that I have here, if I take a look at my libraries, you can see that I have a lot of different libraries, and I'm currently working on this particular brand. It's a brand called Altura. It's a fictional brand. It does not really exist in real life, but it is a brand that now just recently brought out a brand new fitness smartwatch. And so this is the branding for that particular organization. And of course, it has to do with fitness and health and all that kind of stuff. So I'm currently working on that promotion. I'm currently working on that campaign. And for that, of course, I need to use various images. Now, the first thing that I need to do is I need to change the background of this image. So I need to change the sky. The sky looks fine, but I want to change the mood just a little bit here. So there's a couple things I would like to do. First of all, I would like to select the woman you see here in the foreground, and I need to select this rock as well. Now, this is fine, but the problem is, look at this hair. I mean, look at it. Look at the detail. This is very challenging to select. And even if you are somewhat experienced with Photoshop, selecting something like that will easily take you 20 minutes or even longer just to get everything ready, get everything up and running. Now, there's a couple things you can do. I could, for example, just go ahead and go up to the select menu and choose select subject, which will run an AI algorithm, which is really, really greatly improved, by the way, that will allow me to do exactly that. Now, if I just select it like this way and just use a mask here, now look what I have here. It has now just selected all of that hair beautifully. Look at the complexity of that mask. It just did that just by snoozing a snap of a finger. And that's actually really, really cool. But the thing is that I don't want to just select that person. I wanted to change the sky, remember? So there's an option for that. There's an option called sky replacement now. So the only thing I have to do is go back here to the edit menu, go all the way down and choose sky replacement, which will run that exact same AI algorithm, make that same selection, and will basically do all the work for me. Now, having a sky selection option like this will offer me a couple of things. Now, first of all, yes, it will make a proper selection of these layers. And then secondly, it will also choose and apply a different sky. So I've got a whole bunch of different skies here. I've got very romantic sunsets, and I've got very spectacular, ominous looking clouds that I can use. And again, I can just quickly click and drag to place that imagery here in the background. Now, of course, when you change the scenery, when you change the light source, or maybe the time of day in such a composition, it's really important to understand that this will have an effect on anyone that is in that picture. For example, I am wearing a light gray shirt right now, and it has a certain color. But if you put me in the evening sun that's very orange and very red, this will not be neutral gray. It will be tainted with that color. So this means that I don't just have work in the background, I have work in the foreground as well. But you know what? The sky replacement functionality does that for me as well. So if I, for example, take a look at this sky here, which is more like a sunset, I would expect the woman to be more affected by basically the sun that is setting here in the distance. So what I can do is I can basically play around with the temperature. So I can play around with the temperature of the sky in general. Maybe I can make that a bit cooler. But I can also change the foreground adjustments. For example, if I change the lighting adjustments, you can see that there is a different lighting being applied to that person in the foreground. And it will also enable me to colorize this person more or less in this particular setup here. So this actually looks pretty darn good. And so what I can do is I can actually click OK, and it will actually generate all of these non-destructive layers from me as well. And the most important layer here is the mask that was used for this sky. So this means I can still come in and make individual adjustments here, but I have to say that this here, this mask looks pretty darn spectacular. So the only thing I might actually do is just maybe use the brush tool and then just switch to the black color and just kind of paint some of these areas back if I really wanted to. Or of course, you can now just go ahead and use something like a curves adjustment layer, and I start to play around with the mask. So here you can see there's more sky appearing just next to her. If I move this the other way, you can see that now the sky is going to start to eat up the edge of the woman here. So it's basically just a matter of having a really good balance for that very, very specific mask. But I mean, I've been talking about this for the last 5.5 minutes, and the work is already done. That's kind of the point. So selecting this, changing the background, it was very easy to do. And yes, these skies, they all come with Photoshop, But of course, I can add my own skies as well. Okay, if I have my own pictures, you can now just replace it anyway. And the cool thing is the selection is done. This has already saved me at least 30 minutes. Doing this in a photorealistic way probably takes an average of 50 minutes based on my experience. Okay, that is the time that you just get back by using something like sky replacement. Let's move on to another one here. Let's move on to this one. So same thing here. I'm still working on this particular brand campaign, and I have downloaded this picture here from Adobe Stock. Again, it's just a regular picture. It comes with this funky looking background here. I did not do this myself. I just downloaded the picture. Now, this is great, and I really think that she has a place in my campaign. The only problem is she's very, very seriously looking. So she's way too serious for my campaign. I want happy people in my campaign. How can we make her happy? Well, the obvious choice would be we have to go and find a different picture, right? Where she's actually smiling. The problem is A, I don't have time, and B, ugh, the chances are extremely low that I will have the exact same picture with her smiling. So this means that we have to make her smile instead. So what we can do is we can go up here to the filter menu and we can choose neural filters. So neural filters is something that's brand new. It's something that was created thanks to engineers at Nvidia. And what it does is it will basically allow me to, oh, there's some flickering here. I'm not sure if that is related to Zoom. What it does, it will basically enable me to use a smart portrait feature. If I activate that smart portrait feature, it will start to change the way this image looks here. Now, I'm just going to skip out of this here. I'm not really sure where the flickering is coming from. I do apologize for that. This, as Devon heard before, maybe again, this is something has to do with Zoom. So what I can do instead is I'm going to take a look at another picture that I have already set up beforehand. There we go. So this is the exact same example, but I've already gone through the neural filter process. So again, I'll show you what the filter itself looks like. Again, I think there's the same interaction happening, but that's fine. Let's quickly take a look at the options here. Just please ignore the green for now. So as you can see, I actually have sliders, so I can change the happiness of this individual. I can change the surprise, I can change anger, I can basically change her age. These are a lot of very unique AI driven functionalities that I can now add to that individual person here. And so what's really, really cool is the fact that when you apply something like this here, I'm going to try this again here. I'm not sure what is happening. There we go. So if I take a look at this project here, what you see here is the original image as I download the image from Adobe Stock. But I've already gone ahead and I've actually tried some of these neural filters here and I've applied them to this very specific image. So let's see what happens here. Look, if I click the happiness option, this is what the result's going to be. She's going to be smiling. And so this is something that was done automatically using Photoshop. And so this was just a picture. She didn't have any teeth in the picture. So the algorithm just gave her teeth magically. And she is really, really smiling. So you don't just smile with your mouth, you smile with your eyes, with how your cheeks move, your position of the ears. So a smile basically takes up everything in your face, and it does that in a very, very natural way. I can also make her sad. This is the sad version. Okay. I can change the age. I can make her older. This is the old version of that same person. Again, using those exact same filters as well. And so you might be thinking, wow, this looks like fun. I'm going to, play a joke, play a prank on my friends because why not? Let's make them old or let's make them super young. What's the value? The thing is that, especially for ad agencies, being able to change the expression of the mouth, being able to change the position of the head, something you can do as well, by the way, being able to change where the lighting comes from, or even changing the age is something that's really important for ad agencies where they're looking for the perfect model and they have to retouch some of the features of their face in order to make that model appropriate for a certain campaign. On top of that, also keep in mind that a lot of government agencies use Photoshop. Photoshop is used all across the world. So there are pictures being taken from missing people, missing children, okay, suspects in investigations, where over the period of certain years, they have to digitally retouch the image to make that person grow and make them recognizable. I mean, what if, for example, what if this person that you see here on screen was someone that went missing 25 years ago? Okay, so you can simulate how those people would look like when they did age. Okay, so there are many different purposes here for this. So this is what the neural filters can do for you, which is again, which is really really cool. I'm gonna save this, close this. I'm not gonna save this here. Now, what I also did was I did went ahead and I actually used the smiling version of this person. This is the smiling version, by the way. So I converted this picture. Look at how angry she looks to this picture. Look how happy she looks because now, of course, she gets to wear my brand new smartwatch. And so the thing is that using the neural filters will basically speed up your workflow. And using sky replacement will enable you to easily make very complex selections. Even if you don't even want to change the sky, it will still make that selection for you, which is really, really cool. Now, when you're working with Photoshop, what you can do is when you take a certain composition, like I have the composition here, for example. So what you can do is you can basically now save that document. I'm going to quickly say that I am going to save a copy of the document. I'm going to save that copy here as a cloud document. So I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this Sky Replaced. Now clearly just choose save. So this is going to save this document in my Adobe Creative Cloud file repository. Okay, so this means that now this file has become a PSDC file, a PSDC file. So this means if I quickly close this file, I'm not going to save this here. If I choose open, then you'll see that from the open menus, then I actually have access to all of the files that I have saved here within my Adobe Creative Cloud environment that supports cloud documents. Remember, Photoshop, Fresco, XD, Illustrator. So these are all the files that I have. So if I take a look at that file I have here, you can see that this file is a PSDC file and it's hosted on the cloud. And so what happens with that is this opens up options. First thing you can do is you can take another Photoshop document, a cloud document. It looks like this. You can go to the window menu and you can choose version history. And as you can see, there are actually different versions of that exact same file. So if you were working on a certain campaign, you can actually see when it was that you saved this document and it will retain all of those differently saved versions. So this means that I can basically click and go back in time. If I click the 9:51 a.m. version, it looks like this, which is the exact same version I have now. If I click this version, you can see that the picture was flipped, the color was changed. This is a different version. So basically, you will never lose an edit. Every single time you hit the save button, it will add an extra layer of that saved version. Keep in mind, as it says here, that the versions will expire after 30 days unless you save the version. And you save version by giving them a name. This is the version that's named facing left, and I can actually use that now and just revert the file back. So this is what I currently have in my Photoshop document. This in the preview is what the file in this version looks like. Let's go back to that version. It's very simple. You click these options here. You can say revert to this version, and Photoshop will download that old version and will replace the current version I have here so I can go back to the original. Now, versions are available here directly from within Photoshop, but they're also available from within the Adobe Creative Cloud hosting web page itself. So this means that the moment it's actually done opening up this document here, I'll show you how you can access those documents from any web browser as well, because of course it is a cloud document. Now, using these different versions will allow you to go back whenever your customer decides to change their mind, or it will enable you to basically split up your design and have two parallel versions. Maybe I do want a red version and I do want to have a green version, and I want to keep both files here as a version instead of duplicating the file and putting it somewhere else on the server and end up with like a million different types of files. That's not what I wanted. And here we go. This is the version that I had before. It was downloaded back from the hosting service, and I can now keep working on that version here. Now, if you open up a web browser and go to assets.adobe.com, remember you can always access all of your materials from this exact web page. And so now there is a cloud documents category from where you can actually inspect your cloud documents. I'm just going to quickly go ahead and just sign out. I have to sign in with the proper account, of course. There we go. I'm just going to quickly sign in with this account. I'll just choose OK. I'm going to click that push notification on my phone as a two-factor authentication, of course, for security purposes. And now this will log me into my account. There you go. This is the proper account, and here is my file. So when you click that document, you can actually see the contents of that Photoshop file straight here from within a web browser. So this means that you can also click the timeline option and go ahead and inspect those exact same versions, which is great. But it actually opens this up a little bit broader as well, because this means that you can always go ahead and you can create a link to that file, and you can share that link to stakeholders. So this means that if you copy that link and if you email that link to anyone, they will get this experience. They can log into that URL. They can see the asset, and they can basically view the design that you've made. And the cool thing is that if you click the sign in option, just using a free account, no no paid Creative Cloud, just a free account, they can comment on that work as well. Let me show you what that looks like. It looks like this here. If you hit the comments option, you can say move the logo to the left, for example, and you can just choose submit, and you can say like like this here, this should be different. You can actually say move to here, then choose submit, and you can basically start to add all of these different comments here to this exact document. I want the shadow to look a bit different. Change the shadow, and this comment should be pinned here on this location, for example. And again, you choose submit. And again, this will allow you to better collaborate online as well. Last thing you can do with cloud documents, which is really, really cool, is in Photoshop, you can actually share the document to someone else. So imagine that I'm currently working on this campaign, but you know what? Summer's around the corner. I'm about to take off for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm on vacation. Leave me alone. This is the file that I currently have within my cloud document repository. I can always click this option at the top right of the screen that says invite to edit, which means that I can now invite a coworker that also has a permission to enter into the Photoshop document and also work on the file. You cannot work on the file at the same time, but one person can. So this means that I can now share that file with someone else, and that person can continue and finish off my work when I'm away, holiday, sick, unavailable, or whatever excuse I might have. So there you have it, cloud documents, neural filters, and skyway replacement. I'm going to go just close everything here. I'm going to close down Photoshop for now, and I'm going to choose quit Photoshop. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a few other things here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Illustrator for now. And I'm quickly going to show you one option. Okay, there are a few different options that changed in Illustrator. I think there's one that's actually quite interesting that I do want to show off, which is the recolor artwork option. So this means that you now have a better way of dynamically recoloring any type of asset that you have within Illustrator based on a picture. So I'm still working on all of the assets here from for this campaign. So this means that if you take a look at the artwork that you have here. So for example, I'm actually working on a presentation for PowerPoint. And so what you have here is this. So I've got this infographic basically that talks about sports. But the colors are all off. The colors are not on brand. And I need to change the colors in this design. Now, I did place this image here, the image that you know by now, because I really like the color scheme of this. So what I would like to do is I would like to recolor these assets based on the input from that central theme color that I have that I place here within Illustrator. So what I can do is I will click this away here. So what I can do is I can now just go ahead and select the artwork, and then I can go ahead and click this recolor artwork option, and this will enable me to basically choose the color theme picker and now just click any other type of asset that I have. So I can go ahead and then just select that picture, and it will load in the color theme of that picture. Now, as you can see, the emphasis here is on the blue color. That's because the blue color here is larger. So this means that I can go ahead and start to randomize how these colors are now being applied onto this graphic. Now, if you do find something that you like, again, I'm just going to randomize this a little bit here. Like if you do find something, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm a very difficult person to work with here. So I do want the colors to look absolutely great. Let's go for this one here. So if you do find a color that you think should have more influence over another color, you can always go ahead and just select that color here. And then you can go ahead and just kind of change the balance of how big the influence of that specific color should be. And so with that, you just basically have a very easy way of now just recoloring this type of artwork. Same thing here. If you've got other types of artwork here, go back, recolor this, choose the color theme picker, and you can now click, or you can just kind of click and drag around an area that you think is interesting. And now again, it will only take in the colors of that area that you have here, which is again pretty darn interesting to use. And on top of that, if you do have those graphics, again, nothing is stopping you from just opening up this particular library and then dragging and dropping in this asset into the library, which I've already gone ahead and did here, by the way. So as you can see, I already have that graphic here from Illustrator. And then if you go back into PowerPoint, this is my Adobe presentation, you can always now go back, click the Creative Cloud option, access those exact same libraries thanks to the design systems that we have now, and now just go ahead and of course switch to the proper library, and now you just go ahead and place that artwork directly into your PowerPoint presentation. And again, this is all coming from Illustrator, which is really, really cool. I can even place transparent Photoshop documents and just basically jazz up my presentation any way I want. And the only thing I need to have is this very simple Creative Cloud add-on, which is just one click away from the PowerPoint menu. It's really, really cool. I don't even need to have a paid membership. Free Creative Cloud Adobe ID is enough for your coworkers to receive and have access to all of these really cool libraries. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close Illustrator for now. Let's move on. Let's move on to Adobe InDesign. So again, InDesign also had a few really cool updates these last couple of months. Some are smaller and other are a bit more substantial. So for example, if I take a look at this, there you go, at this poster here. So imagine I'm currently working on this poster again for my Altura brand. So I've got that exact same picture here. I've got the woman smiling. So I know that I applied those neural filters here using Photoshop, but I've got this text here. And so the text I have here should basically kind of flow off her back here. So it should not overlap with the area of the picture. Now, I do know for a fact that this is just one flat image. It doesn't have layers in Photoshop. So this will make things harder for me. So what a lot of people tend to do is they just tend to do something like this here. They just use the pen tool and start to just kind of drag a path just to kind of cover that area. And then they would use something like text wrap, and then they would use the text wrap functionality. There we go. And then just apply the text wrap, and then they would just hide the stroke features altogether like this. There we go. And now this looks great. But look what happens. If I ever come in, if I ever change the size of this picture like this, I would have to go back and change the position of the text wrap as well. This is not really the most flexible solution. So instead, I'm just going to go back to the original version. Let me show you something new instead. What you can do is you can now just click the picture, okay? And you can now just apply text wrap to the picture. Now, of course, this means it will push everything away. Now, here, that should not be a problem. I can now just ignore the text wrap, which is fine. But here, I do want the picture to automatically wrap around the text here. So what I can do is use a brand new functionality here within text wrap. And that here is called select subject. So select subject is going to analyze what is in the picture and is going to decide what is the subject of interest in that particular picture. If I choose select subject, look what happens. InDesign is automatically going to trace over the contents of this image. It's going to ignore the background, and it will allow me to basically set a value now to automatically push the text away from that area. And so it basically does this automatically for me. And the cool thing is that if you were to just click and select the contents of that picture and scale this up and down, as you can see, the text will now travel with that exact same text wrap functionality because this is a live AI driven functionality, again, which is pretty darn cool. Let me show you, let me close this here for now. And let me just quickly take a look at another thing here. One other thing you can do now within Adobe InDesign is you can actually dynamically change the colors of a brochure or whatever design you might have. So this means that if I take a look at my swatches, I'm going to go ahead and choose color. I'm going to choose swatches. They're actually open, but I just seem to have misplaced them somehow, somewhere. Where are the, oh, there you go. They're probably here at the bottom. There you go. They're actually here playing hide and seek. The thing is that what if I want to change this color here? So this is the swatch I currently have, and I want to replace that with a different type of blue, but I want to change it everywhere in all the text and the gradients there. What a lot of people do is they do this. They say get rid of the blue and replace that now with whatever. I'll just choose red for now and then choose OK. And yes, it has successfully done what I wanted. The problem is it deleted the blue because that seems to be the only way to achieve this very fast action here. I'm going to undo this here. I'm going to press Command Z on the keyboard. What you do now is the following. Right click the color and choose find this color. And it will open up the fine change window and will use the brand new color tab that was recently added. And so what you can do is now you can find colors up to a certain tint range and you can change that color to something else. For example, I can change a new color from here, or I can go ahead and just choose a different type of blue that also comes from the swatches. And with that, I can just choose change all. And now it has found and updated 5 instances of that color. And now I've got my updated work. So finding and replacing colors is now something that you can do directly from within the find and change panel as well. Again, pretty darn cool. I'm going to leave InDesign for now. I'm just kind of cherry picking the things I do want to show you guys. Plus, of course, I am on the clock. There's always a lot more that I want to show, but there's not always time, of course. Now, the next thing I'm going to be showing you guys is something that has to do with Premiere Pro. Now, before I can make this work, I'm just going to quickly dive into my hardware settings because I do want to be absolutely sure that you can hear the sound. Okay, cool. Now, this is a video. Okay, let me play the video for now. Just bear with me here. We're going to skip forward a little bit. I'll hit the play button.
I'm Brandon, and I'm very excited today to talk to you about our Nvidia Broadcast App. Like many of you, I've been home a lot more lately. I've been video conferencing all day and then gaming and streaming all night, and I have a...
So basically, this is Brandon. And so Brandon is a presenter on YouTube. He's presenting a brand new Nvidia headset that you can buy. It's all amazing. The only problem with Brandon's presentation is that you can hear him talk, but you cannot see any captions. There are no subtitles whatsoever. And so adding captions, creating subtitles is a very time consuming task because you have to do it manually. Up until now, you can actually automate the creation of subtitles and captions within the very latest version of Premiere Pro, which is 15.2. Now, how does it work? It's relatively simple. The video will be sent online to an algorithm that will analyze the audio and will give me will transcribe basically the entire session. So let me show you what that works. If I choose Transcribe Sequence, it will ask me which audio I'm looking for, which language is currently being spoken, and you guys are pretty lucky because Portuguese is one of them. Okay, my native language is Dutch. Dutch is not in there yet. Portuguese is in there, so you guys are lucky. So I'm going to pick English for now because it's an English video. I'll choose transcribe. Now I gotta say this might take a minute or so, but that's absolutely fine. I've got a finished version already good to go. But just know that the video is being uploaded to an online server, which will run an algorithm on that video, and it will basically listen to the video and it will transcribe, which means it will type out all of the audio, I mean, as in the conversation, that is within that video. And it will map that to the exact same timestamps that is within that video. Now, it's currently transcribing it. It will take a minute, maybe 2 minutes. I'm going to let it go for a second here. And so what happens is that once you've got this transcription of the video, You can export that transcription to, let's say, a text file if you need that to put that somewhere, which is absolutely fine. Some people like to use that on their web page so people can search within the transcription to navigate to a certain point in the video. And this is where the fun begins. If you use this brand new Captions workspace, you'll have the ability to take that transcription of the audio and then map that and save that and put that onto your timeline here at the bottom, specifically to create those captions, to create those subtitles for you. Now, of course, this video does take a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to let it finish its course. We do have a little bit of time for this, and I'm going to show you basically how you can automatically generate those captions as well. Now, this is something that has only very, very recently come out. It is part of the Captions workflow, so you can only have this available if you do subscribe to the latest version, if you install the latest version of Premiere Pro. Now, it's only taking a couple more seconds just to finish this off, and I'm going to show you how you can add that to your video from here. Now, if your language or the language you're looking for is not in the list, Adobe is currently looking at additional languages to add to this algorithm. Of course, it needs time for this. We will not be having, or we will not be launching additional languages in these next couple of months. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll see, but it's really difficult to commit to something like that since, of course, it's a huge work to actually accomplish. But again, you guys are lucky because Portuguese was already in there. I haven't tried it in Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese. I do apologize. But I'm sure that you guys can give this a go. Now it's actually done. So it's done transcribing everything. And now it has actually put this transcription here within Premiere Pro. And as you can see, it does make a distinction between this speaker and potentially other speakers as well. And it actually time-stamped everything for this entire video. This is all the text. Let me click the Create Captions option and show you what that looks like. This should be a subtitle in a particular style, and it should be created from the sequence transcript, or it should be as a blank track. I'll just choose OK. And now it is going to generate captions, as in subtitles, for my entire video. Now, I gotta say, I just picked this video off of YouTube. I did not create the video myself. I have no control over the audio whatsoever. But now look what happens. Here, it added a subtitle track. Let me try this again. Let me show you what the result is.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandon and I'm very excited today to talk to you about our Nvidia Broadcast App. Like many of you, I've been home a lot more lately. I've been video conferencing all day and then gaming and streaming all night. And I have a very basic webcam and microphone setup. Nvidia Broadcast.
So as you can see, it did a very good job just transcribing everything. And this guy is talking pretty fast. He's not like he's an English teacher and he's talking very slow and very clear. No, he's just going on. Okay. So this means that it actually picks up everything and is a really, really good job. So give this a go. Premiere Pro, automating captions. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And I think it's really going to boost your productivity as well if you are a video editor. Now let's move on to the very last bit of today's session, which is going to be about Adobe Xd. So Adobe Xd is Adobe's design and prototyping solution. So this means that you traditionally use this for prototyping all sorts of interactive experiences like a game or a mobile app or a web page before you start the developing, before you start the code. Now, one of the things, it's like a byproduct that Adobe Xd is being used for a lot as well, is presentations. I actually use Adobe Xd for presentations on a regular basis as well. And so about 2 weeks ago, there's a brand new plugin that came out, which is called Presentation. And so what it enables you to do is it enables you to use basic slide templates to build your own presentations. And then, of course, use the Adobe Xd functionality for using styles, adding interactivity, hotkeys, Photoshop files, and everything else in order you to have an interactive presentation. Now, if you want to use the presentation plugin, you just go to the plugin menu and then you just choose manage plugins or browse plugins. And from here, you can just go ahead and now just try and find that plugin. You just have to use the search functionality and you just basically download that one plugin. Now, once you have the plugin added, and you got to say, I have a lot of different plugins here. I was exploring over 400 different plugins. You can actually just click the presentation plugin from here. It's actually over here. And then you can start adding your own presentation slides. So the thing is, my project currently looks like this. I only have one slide. I only have one artboard. But of course, I can add additional slides. So for example, I can say that I need to have an agenda slide, and then I need to have a product slide, and then maybe I'll have a speaker slide. And so as you can see, I now add additional slides. If I navigate my artboard, it looks like this, and it actually shows you those exact same slides here as like a run through of where those slides are going to be and how they're being used. So this means that I can basically kind of, use this slide and place it anywhere I want here within this large artboard. This will not affect the order of my presentation because my project is always going to be ordered in this exact way here. So we're going to undo this for now. So what happens here is that if you take a look at these particular slides here, you can always go in and you can just change the text, like for example, welcome to Adobe, for example, and I just go ahead and I apply those individual styles that come with that exact same template as well. Of course, these styles can always be managed directly here from within the document assets pane, like you would manage any other type of Adobe Xd application or project. Now, what is interesting here is that, of course, when you want to add additional content, you just kind of click, for example, an image. It will basically give you additional search results based on the theme that you're currently looking for. Of course, if you want to add additional images, these images come from Unsplash. So for example, if I just type in something like minimal, like room, for example, it will find minimal room. I can just click to replace that image and it will just do that automatically for me. If I want to switch themes, it's actually pretty cool as well. If you go to something, let's say something a little bit more funky here, let's choose this one called circular. It will actually replace all the content that you have with that exact same theme. And with that, it will also actually give you a different example and different suggestions on what you can basically place on your slides here. Now, what is cool is that, of course, you can now add all sorts of other things as well. So, for example, I've got different icons and shapes. They can now just basically click and just add to your presentation. And you can always just go back and then just changes to another type of icon that you might need in order to kind of pimp that presentation just a little bit more. Now, we've got basic elements and shapes that you can use, but of course, we've got other things as well. So, for example, you cannot just use shapes. You can use all sorts of charts that you might use on a regular basis, for example, which might be interesting. You can use all sorts of illustrations. We've got picture galleries and all sorts of other stuff here. And the cool thing is that this will basically enable you to do all sorts of really cool things here because, it is basically just Adobe Xd. So this means that if you take a look at these type of things here, like the arrows that you have, you can always go ahead and turn this into a component. I'll just quickly add a hover state, and I'll just go ahead and just change, for example, just the degrees for those arrows, and say that you've got a default state from here, and that you've got a hover state from there. And what you can do is you can basically start to animate those kinds of things as well as you navigate through your presentation again, which is really, really interesting. Now, another thing that you can do is that if you, let's go back and switch to a different theme here, is that when you talk about things like animation in general, we now have the ability to also animate the stroke and the dashed line that you might be using within certain presentations. So for example, imagine that this is just a regular shape, for example, and I'm just going to take this here, or I might actually just kind of add one myself. So if I were to just drag a shape, I might actually round the corners. I'm going to increase that border size to about 2. I'm going to change that border color to the theme green I have. Looks pretty good. There we go. I might place this here. I'll get rid of the fill. Again, I'm just freewheeling here just a little bit. Oops. I just have to expand that a bit like this here. So one of the things you can do is if you were to be playing around with, let's say, a dashed line that looks like this here. But if you increase that a lot more, let's say go up to 100, you get something like this here. And what's actually pretty cool is that if you have a dashed line like this, and then increase that gap, let's say 200, a bit more, as you can see, it kind of looks like this, something like that. It's pretty cool, 480. There we go. We can actually save this now as a component and say that if I do a hover state, I'll quickly just undo this here. Let's add a hover state. There we go. It should look like this. It should look like this. So it's going to go from that dashed line that looks like this here back to this, and it should automatically animate. So how does it work? If you go to prototyping mode, it will auto animate. Let's say it should take 3 seconds, and let's see what that looks like for now. There we go. I'll just choose to preview. There we go. I'll just preview what that looks like. If I hover, you can see that it will now animate to the other value I had. So the ability to animate dashed lines and those specific settings is also new to this latest version of Adobe Xd, where you just basically hover over this with the mouse and expand on the types of interactivities that you currently have. Now, what I would like to suggest that you do is just keep your eye on the Creative Cloud desktop app. Make sure that you do update to the latest versions of these creative applications, because there's new stuff always around the corner. Summer is upon us almost, and so we traditionally always have big updates coming out in the June and the July timeframe. So keep your eyes peeled for those as well. In the meantime, if you can, please take a look at the new updates that we've just launched in these recent months, and I hope that you'll have fun as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now and see if we have any specific questions that might have been asked in the chat box. And if not, here's your chance to actually ask those questions right now.
Ok, thank you very much, Bart. Se alguém que tiver alguma questão, pode agora colocar fazendo o unmute ou colocando a pergunta pelo chat, ou então teremos como finalizada a sessão. Okay, Bart, just ask if someone has any questions through chat or through if they want to speak. If not, we will close the session.